Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, Saturday morning, Saturday morning. It is Saturday morning. It is April the 15th. The time is 10:45 a.m. Party people, what's good with you? What's good with you? I should be live on Facebook. We should be live on the YouTubes, and we should be live on LinkedIn. Listen, we're not gonna be a long time. I want you to jump in, man. We just had a dope conversation about church health, not so much church growth, but about church health with GCFC Georgia, GC Georgia Cosmopolitan Fellowship, Dr. Michael Stevens, Superintendent Griffin, myself, Elton. So do me a favor, you know what I'm saying? Drop the one in the comments if you can hear me. Drop a number two if you can see me. Elton is gonna come in a second, but drop a one in the comments if you can hear me, and drop a number two if you can see me. Not taking a lot of time. I know y'all at my fence life. What's going on, my fence? Hey man, listen, like I said, we just had a dope conversation. Today's conversation is gonna be very brief, real quick, maybe 10, 15 minutes. We wish we could have talked all morning, you know what I'm saying? Because this is a conversation that can perpetually go on and on and on. But like I said, we didn't necessarily get a chance to get into all of the weeds like we wanted to. But again, y'all do me a favor, you know what I'm saying? If you can hear me, drop a one in the comment. Why one walk? Because it's better for me to be heard than to be seen. If you could see me and not hear me, I would look kind of foolish. But y'all know how it is when you're on a Zoom meeting and you see somebody talking and you be like, I can't hear you. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I always say drop a one if you can hear me, drop a two if you can see me. My fence said, yo, ones and twos, we are good to go. Boom. All right. Let's see who we got watching, especially y'all let me know where you're watching from. Shout out to the Facebook community. Shout out to YouTube community. Shout out to the LinkedIn community. Yo, while I'm at it, let me go ahead and pull this up. Y'all see what it is? Y'all see what it is right there. May the 19th and the 20th. We are a little over 30 days away from the biggest event to hit the United States of America. None other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Chris Do. If you don't know it, YouTube it. Chris Do, who we consider to be the Michael Jordan of marketing, media, and business, all things branding, is making his way to Raleigh, North Carolina. Listen, I don't think y'all understand how big this is. Chris is on a European tour, and he's going to be coming straight from Amsterdam, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to bring Elton in a second so he can confirm that. Coming straight to Raleigh. And guess what, y'all? Right now, we have the only scheduled tour date in the entire Western Hemisphere. So in the entire intercontinental, United States, North America, South America, he's going to be in Raleigh. So if you in California, you need to get to Raleigh. If you in New York, you need to get to Raleigh. If you in Florida, Texas, Chicago, Canada, Mexico, Cancun, whatever, you need David Harvey. That's big. Yeah, I don't think people understand how big and significant that is. That man is coming straight from Europe, straight to Raleigh. And after that, he's probably going back to California. And if he's doing a private event, he's doing a private event. He's going to be gone. You know what I'm saying? But again, like I said, we don't want to take up a lot of time today. You know what I'm saying? We'll bring EB on in the room. You know what I'm saying? EB, hey, man, let him know, like, Chris is coming from Amsterdam, or he coming from where he coming from? Because all I know, he coming from Europe.
First, he's coming from, can you hear me?
Yeah, we'll hear you loud and clear.
Okay, so first he's coming from Dubai. He's coming from Dubai, right? And then... No, he's coming from Amsterdam, and then when he leaves us, he's going to Dubai.
Yo.
So it's pretty serious, I hope people will catch on and see and research and understand how important this is, how monumental this is. And this is just something that we want to do for our business professionals.
Right.
Don't get trapped up on the word creative, because all of us are creating in some kind of way. Whether you're creating systems, processes, he's going to speak to so much more than design. He's going to speak to business, and all of us need help in business.
Right.
All of us need help in business. So, and we've discounted, so people that don't know who he is will be able to still get in the room, because believe me, nowhere else in the country will you ever be able to get in the room with this guy. You're talking about anywhere upward from $1,500 to $2,500 just to have your seat in any other arena. People in Europe, they're paying big bucks. But we want to cultivate our people. And when I say our people, I mean people in the creative community, people in the business community, to not have to make so much mistakes and learn how to jump in front of what's coming.
Right.
So that's where we at, man.
Man, listen, that joint, it's gonna be crazy. I don't think y'all understand. But listen, like I said, it's Saturday morning. We know it ain't raining. It's a beautiful day outside. North Carolina. Listen, North Carolina experienced all 5, 6, 7 seasons. Y'all be like, it's only 4. Nah.
Not here.
In North Carolina, you're gonna get about 10 different seasons or whatever, and we literally ran through all of them yesterday. But like I was saying earlier, man, we were on a Zoom. We just got off the Zoom. You know what I'm saying? And 9 times out of 10, you know how it is when you're having a conversation about something that you're passionate about, and you're like, man, I wish I could have said this, or I didn't have time to say that. So thank God for technology. You have the ability to be able to carry, you know what I'm saying, that conversation forward. But we were talking about healthy church, and then just excellence in media and marketing. And we have a lot of people that are doing a lot of things right now, some intensives going on, that people are doing some great dope stuff over the spring, going into the summer, and some other things we'll be bringing to you as well. So you're going to see a lot of this conversation continuing to happen. But one thing I wanted you to kind of touch on, because we missed out on the opportunity. We were talking about making the investment, and we were having a broad conversation, but we didn't really get a chance to kind of get into the weeds to kind of tell people, tell somebody at a grassroots level, if you're starting today, this is kind of the investment that you want to make, need to make, can expect to make. But in terms of making the investment, people feel like, well, why is it necessary for me to make the investment? What kind of impact is this actually going to have on my church? Because one of the things Dr. Stevens said, a lot of times we sit here and compare ourselves to a Potter's House Dallas and a Bishop Jakes, and we don't have that budget. Well, you don't necessarily need that budget to have the level of impact that's necessary for your audience. You're not Thomas Dexter Jakes. You don't preach at the Potter's House. You don't have his oil, and I'm not saying that from a disrespectful standpoint. Place, you don't have his oil, you don't have his calling, you don't have his audience. He's been assigned to that. And whatever you've been assigned to, God is going to equip you with what you need to reach that mass of people, whether it's millions or whether it's the thousands, that's right there in your city. And so I really kind of want you to speak to that, not so much investment versus impact, but the correlation of the two and how they go together. And a lot of times why we seem to miss that, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to not just growing your church, but having a healthy church.
Well, I'll say this. If you can find this clip, go look for this clip. It's a clip of Bishop Jakes going to the stage, onto the pulpit one morning. And he walks and he hugs people that have been brought in to backstage to meet him. But everybody on the left side of the corridor has on all black, and he doesn't reach the whole, just shake their hand. He doesn't reach to speak to them. None of those people. You know why? Because those people are there paid to be doing a job, right? So those people are being paid to make it look like the arena's full, the church is full. They're there to make the broadcast look good. Even when he didn't have anybody in there, it was just him and probably about 3 or 4 more people. But the presence, that presence changed the whole outlook and trajectory of what people felt and carried on as churches. Like, okay, it's cool now to just be in church and have a couple of people because the masses are still being fed, right? So for somebody to create that, they're getting paid for it. you can afford not to invest in this stuff. You can sit back and say, "Oh, the pandemic is over now, and we don't have to invest anymore in this, this technology." But you're gonna become a dinosaur in probably about 6 months because technology is about to take another turn. And you're going to be on the back end of it, and it's going to be almost impossible for you to catch up. You probably spend a year trying to catch up. So I think you got to invest in your media. You got to invest in what your message is. What your message is, and who, like you said a while ago, who your audience is. Everything isn't from everybody, and it's not going to be received the same. So you got to invest in this, man. We got to invest.
Man, I don't think people understand again how paramount um that really is, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like comparison, we always say comparison is a creativity killer. And so, you're praying for wisdom and witty ideas and inventions and all these different types of things, for God to give you a vision that's specific, to the people that you want to reach. And then the first thing that you do is go, well, let me see what everybody else is doing. And again, we kind of, made the joke, which it really ain't funny, but even from a music standpoint, how much music has changed, in the quote unquote black church, you know what I'm saying? Because we went from particularly having choirs, which really was a huge part of community, and just from a cultural standpoint, how we did things. Israel and New Breed comes out, Vicky Yohe, all the quote unquote what we know as contemporary Christian CCM, and now everybody got rid of their choirs and adopted praise and worship teams. And now we're in a dispensation of bring back choir music. And so the thing is, choir music actually never left. Like choirs never left. It's just that we only get to see ministry on such a large level, you know what I'm saying, that we forget about, what made us and what got us to this point. And I don't want to speak that from a traditionalist standpoint. I just think I'm one of the few millennials that's left that I have an appreciation for the old and for the new. And this is not just a conversation for church, but this is a conversation for business as well, because if you look at companies like a Hilton that's been around since the Great Depression, if you look at a Wells Fargo, if you look at these Chase Bank and Exxon and Apple, think about how many times Apple has quote unquote reinvented themselves. Right. But they've done it in such a unique way that you never even realize. They do it right. They do it so subtly through the product. You know what I'm saying? They may change the type of metal that comes out in the next iPhone, which completely revolutionized the way that they do business. Like right. They're making an investment in, going to a silicone-based chip, which a lot of people had a problem with. But I guarantee you're not complaining about the price. Because right. Again, think about Apple used to be kind of considered a luxury brand. It's no longer really considered a luxury brand. It's almost considered a utility brand, because it's almost like you got to have it. That's why I don't have a problem with people with Androids, but I'm like, how y'all living? Like how y'all existing? And then it confuses me when I see people that have Androids in an iPad or they have a MacBook, and I be like, right. like I know your AirDrop doesn't work because you don't have it. Like in no way does that make sense. So again, this is not just a conversation for church. You have to be bold enough to challenge the norms of what you've always done and compare it to what's still effective for the market that we're trying to reach right now. And going back to your conversation about investment, like you can't afford not to make the investment because you're going to get left behind. Gone are the days of I don't have a budget, because all of y'all got this, all of you paying for this, everybody paying for the internet, whether you getting it from Spectrum, Google, AT&T, or Elon Musk, or you getting it from Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, USA, Smart, whatever, Straight Talk, I don't know, Boost, if they still around. You Sprint, whatever they call it. Man, listen, but gone are the days of excuses, because again, stop comparing yourself to somebody who's always say, stop using somebody else's finish line to determine how you start or run your race. Bishop Jakes is generations in, as I said earlier, you're not Bishop Jakes, but you are who you are. And you may be called to a great audience, but it may just start with this
Right.
right here, which has the potential to meet millions. So you've already made the investment. You now just need to make the investment as it relates to time and education, as you were saying on the Zoom, on how to apply the power that's inside of this device.
Cause even this, check this out. A couple weeks ago we had Dreamville, downtown Raleigh, and everybody's talking about the awesome footage that they had and the promos they had with the guy with the drones and
Yo,
the drone work of how he was in the crowd, he was on the stage, and all that stuff, doing that stuff live. And I know a church that literally they wanted to do that, but their drones were shut down because of the metal roofing, so they couldn't do that. So now they're buying a
hmm,
whole nother line of drones to be able to capture that same kind of experience and that same kind of feel. So you people are looking out, reaching for experiences, and it behooves us to not have same way we brought lights and smoke and drum cages and all that stuff, that technology in the church. You're gonna need people want to come in church and have that same experience. That doesn't change what you can deliver to them mission wise and word wise, but at the same time, you got to move with the times, and that don't mean you move the word with the times or what your mission. But at the same time, people like to feel comfortable where they come and worship at, and if you can make that experience the same, hey, you winning all the way around.
man. Now I'm gonna ask you a question. We getting ready to wrap up here in a little bit, but I'm gonna ask you a question, like, and I'm gonna get in trouble because this is going hint on some major things that kind of happened in Christendom
The
this
questions of
weekend.
Walt are is it alone.
Listen, is so you talked about doing drones in church, but the key word
Hmm.
that you used is experience. And so
Hmm.
where do you draw the line? Because we work in production, film, photography, video, graphics. Listen, is we know the links at which you can go to try to number one prove a point, tell a story, or sell a product.
Right,
But where do
right.
you draw the line between are we doing too much or has the rest of the world just not caught up to what we're doing?
I'm gonna reach back and say it's something that you said on the Zoom a
Hmm.
couple minutes ago. Who are we putting this stuff in the hands of?
Mm,
Who are we putting the stuff in the hands of? And not only that, who's fact checking this stuff?
that's
Like
good.
who's saying, that might be a little bit too much. We look at the big corporations and say, hey, nobody saw this past that.
Right, right, right,
With
right.
billions and billions of dollars, nobody has anybody to check that. So we need a system, a check system, somebody over us, or some kind of support system to say, this might be a little bit too edgy, and value them enough to appreciate their advice.
Right,
Because sometimes we can our ego could be blown so far that we think, oh, well, people gonna get us, they gonna get this. Well, if you have a proven record of doing stuff and people don't get what you're trying to portray, you spitting on people. If that's already happened to you, then it needs to be some kind of um, filler in there, some
right,
buffer in there to say, hey, we might need to rethink this. We probably need to cut this out, because we understand what you're trying to do to say God's people can put on these type of performances, but you got to make sure that you're not going, disrespecting people or
right.
insulting people intelligence with what you're doing, I think.
No, I agree. I agree. That's why I'm very, as the Bible say, I'm slow to speak and quick to listen. Because there are, we're living in an age. I mean, like I don't know. It's just so much going on. Like the lines that have been blurred so much between what's considered progressive and then what's considered, for lack of a better term, perverted.
Hmm.
We understand that in one of the bad reps that we get in faith based institutions is we're not we're quick to speak and slow to listen, and we rush to judgment, and we send people to hell immediately,
Right.
and then on the other side you got those people like, well, God know my heart. There has to be a happy medium between the two, because we live in a world where I really can only judge your actions, but I can only measure your intent based on the relationship that I have with you. And one of the things that we talked about on the Zoom is that we spend a lot of time selling, but we don't get a chance. We don't spend a lot of time being relational. We don't spend a lot of time developing relationships. And so, when something happens, it's like, well, you look for the quote unquote people that know you to speak up on your behalf. Well, no, y'all don't know Walt, so that's not the case. Or y'all don't know Elton, so that's not the case. You look for, not for apologetics, because again, I think that's an element we won't necessarily get into that when it comes to theology, us being called as apologetics and then you being called to defend the faith. But just on a personal level, you know what I'm saying? You look for those people to know you to be able to speak up, to say, nah, the execution, okay, maybe that didn't come off right. Maybe he didn't say it right, but the intent of his heart, the intent of his or her heart, their intentions or whatever. I just challenge people, be real. Like you said, just be very careful. Like there got to be checks and balances. The same way in corporate America, it's got to be the same way in church. The same way in church, it's got to be. This is why we have structures in place to make sure it's like, hold on, let's rethink that. Let's pause. Let's not use that song. Let's use this, because we go through that. Yeah, we sitting
Right.
up. That's the whole point of having briefs, and people hate meetings. But I'm like, nah,
You
I'd
got
rather measure 100 times and cut once than cut. You know what I'm saying? Then measure
right.
one time, and then I
'Cause when
lose
you
money
cut,
because I gotta throw the whole thing away. So I think it's
right.
dope. Faith City, they use a drone in like their musical productions. A lot of people
Mm,
don't know that. You can kind of, and I mean, it's fire. Like it's dope.
mm,
I mean, it is crazy dope the way they do it, and it doesn't necessarily push the line. I've seen some Maverick City I've seen some Hillsong. These concerts, they have these massive concerts in these arenas and
right.
stuff. I think you can get
Mm,
away with that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And if
right.
you have a facility, I'm one of those people. I'm like, man, listen, if we got 100,000 square feet, let's use it.
Right.
What's the point of us being in this building just for us to gather and just be looking at each other? I'm like, I'm one of those people. I'm not going. I hate to say it. I'm not going to get so close to seeing that it's going to make you question. But I want to push the envelope to a point where you're like, man. Now I still want you to know the difference between coming to church and going to a Cowboys football game. I
Yeah.
still, I still want you, because I don't. There a level of entertainment that comes with quote unquote production and different things. Absolutely, that don't make it the devil. It's just our nature. You want to hear good music. You don't want to get up there and hear something that sounds bad. You want to hear good music. You want to hear something that's melodious, something that sounds good. It don't make it sinful. It just means you're built that way. If it sounds wrong, you're gonna cringe. It's the same thing
Yeah.
in everything else with colors, lighting, all of these different types of things. But yeah,
You get,
I wouldn't go ahead.
and you gotta know your audience.
Listen.
You gotta know your audience, and you gotta know what arena you're in. I think it was a Maverick City concert when they had a guy in the drum cage, and my first instrument was drum.
Mm-hmm.
So oh man, I love this. They had the guy in this drum cage, and the drum cage rose up and
Yeah,
it
I know what you're
turned
talking about.
upside down, and
Yeah,
he was still playing the drums. I was like, that's hot.
yeah,
Now on Sunday morning, I'd have been like, how much experience do y'all have? Because this guy about to fall on his head, and I knew that wouldn't be inappropriate, right?
right,
So it's a thing of knowing your audience and studying your audience enough to know what they can handle and what you put out there.
right,
Now, if you mismeasure that, like you said, if you mismeasure that, then you're gonna have to do a world of PR and cleaning up. And sometimes that stuff can take years off. of you being effective,
Dude,
and more deeper, where somebody was following your word and really getting out of stuff and coming to God, you can really throw people off. If that stuff, if you kill your word
big
and
time.
people's not following you no more, so
Big time.
now you're responsible biblically. You're responsible for those souls. If you say they following you and you do something drastic like that to cause them to leave, we understand what you was trying to say with the pyros and all this stuff like that. But at the same time, you got to think it's okay to think up here, but it's the people down here that are keeping you and helping you, helping you keep the lights on, all the stuff, and they might not be there yet. So you just got to pay attention to your audience
Right.
and the narrative and the message that you're putting out, man, because it can be so dangerous. It don't take but a second to say something wrong or rub somebody the wrong way just because you wanted to, like you were saying, because you wanted to entertain. And entertainment and effectiveness don't always go over. You just had a good time,
That's key.
and you don't have no takeaway.
That's key. No, I agree with that 100% because, which I know would be a quote unquote, I don't want to say pushback, but would be a rebuttal, because there are people that say, and I agree with them, that you have people that have nowhere near the level of budget or the ability to do some of the productions that we've seen.
Right.
And they have tried to be even more entertaining, and still less effective. You know what I'm saying? So, I think with media and marketing, branding, just production, video, photo, graphics, web, all of the things that we do
Boy,
is
just made me
such,
tired.
bruh, it's such a huge, it's $1 trillion and I say $1 zillion industry, because we make the world go round.
Right.
Literally, the clothes you buy is because of us. The car you drive is because of us. The house you buy is because of us. Who you choose to do banking with is because of us. We were talking about the insurance thing, and for those of you who are watching, I see a couple of people. We've run into a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, and creatives and people who have ideas and want to get themselves out there, and the dynamic has shifted, in your favor, to where you are the brand. You being the person are the brand, and that actually, it makes it easier for you to win. But it seems like it's more difficult. Number one, because people they so afraid of themselves, or they're afraid of the quote unquote camera, or they don't understand the power and influence and how to use that. And one of the things I wanted to say on the Zoom that we ran out of time, I'm like, I'm big on understanding the context of scripture in the Bible. I'm like, so we see the people that Jesus chose as his disciples. It's the same thing in you choosing your C-suite at your organization, or you have a nonprofit organization and you're choosing your board members, or you're when you fill out that LLC paperwork and you're trying to figure out, are you going to be a single member LLC, or are you going to establish a partnership with somebody? It's just not a church conversation we're having. But what he chose were people that had influence. I think Superintendent Griffin said they were people that were already working and they were in their space. And so,
All businessmen.
right, in today's time, you want people who have influence, not people who, you got to question, their integrity. You got to question their intent, because we know how you got some of these people out here on social media. They just trying to live a life, that's superficial. But when you
I have
have,
learned. Let
listen,
me tell you.
dude,
Well, let me
listen.
tell
Listen, but when you have natural, you always can tell a person that is a natural born leader and they have natural influence, because one of the things I said on the Zoom is stop selling. You don't have to sell. When you have natural influence and people are drawn to you and people are attracted to you, you first got to have integrity, because that can be a blessing or a curse. So you have to know how to use that, not allow it to magnify you where you get egotistical and you build yourself up bigger than what you are. But he had, tax collectors and fishermen, and and Paul later, he was a tent builder. And today, we live in an influencer culture. And to those of you who are aspiring entrepreneurs, I want you to start to identify your spheres of influence. because this is going to help you start to identify the people that you are called to reach. Going back to investments and understanding your audience and understand what works for your organization, your church, your business, your Facebook Live account may not necessarily work for mine or vice versa. But if you start to look at what your sphere of influence is, who are the people that are attracted to you? Who are the people that speak back to you? Not just you speak to, but who talks back? If I'm going live and I go live consistently and I may only have 5 people that jump on my live every day, guess what? That's my tribe. That's my community.
Right.
But don't belittle yourself to say, man, such and such got 1,000 people watching their live. I only got 5. You don't know who those 5 people know, because
Right.
one of those 5 could be connected to a whole nother 100,000 that are watching that you don't even know. They're taking your information, giving it to the 100,000 people that they know. One man planteth, another man soweth. God give the increase. We ain't trying to make this a conversation about religion, Christianity, but it is what it is. God is just in everything. So, whether you
We just got off
agnostic,
of Zoom.
listen, whether you agnostic, whatever, I'm not here to get into that today. It works at all levels. And I'm going to let E jump in here. But remember, you have to speak to, don't become so consumed with the algorithm and don't become so consumed with the method and the platform that you forget your audience, that you forget what your mission is. What is your sphere of influence? Within this sphere of influence, why do people feel the way that they feel about you? What is the mission and the vision for you as a brand? And don't be afraid if it's something that's not sexy, because insurance is not sexy, but it's necessary. All insurance did was do the reverse. They took something that wasn't popular and they put a personality to it. So when you think of insurance, you think of Flo, you think of the General, you think of Aflac, you think of Cliff Paul, you think of Shaq, you think of these in good hands, whatever the man is from Love and Basketball. These are the things that you think about in your mind, and you want to make sure that when people think about you, they have that same that mental cognition, that recognition, that cognitive thought of, boom, oh, I need somebody that designs websites. I know I can call Elton. Or I need somebody that does this. I know I can call this person, because you've created a brand that's so personable and you've created relationships with people that when they hit a time of need in their life, you are literally the first person that comes to mind. But that all comes back to understanding who my audience is, how I speak to them, how I reach them. So I'm at the forefront of their mind, and I don't have to sell. When they need me, I'm available. I ain't got to sell you what you need. Like, you call
Right.
me. Well, I need you. Say less. I don't have to sell you on anything, because you're picking up the phone and calling me saying I need you. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it, like you said, it's about integrity. Yeah. It's about integrity because the time, can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. No, I was looking at a
Okay.
comment. My bad.
Okay. But yeah, it's like you just said, like people know, and I'll sum it up like this: like the last when the pandemic hit, marketing and all that stuff is the first thing people cut. Um, when they start, looking at budget. But the last 2 to 3 years, our business have stood up and stayed afloat because of the people that we've established relationships with for the last 15, 20 years.
Right.
And so those people have came back and said, okay, I know when it's my time to win, I'll go to Elton, I'll go to Walt. And I've been able to pull those teams together in the past where, if somebody needs a big production, this what's gonna happen. And so it is important to have that integrity as a brand. Me and Chris Doe, we kind of sparred about back and forth about, do you need a logo, and is the logo more important than your brand, and if people see your logo. And so we sparred out with that, and I went a couple different angles with him. But at the same time, I did that because people can see your logo, but what is your brand? What atmosphere do you give
Right.
people?
Right.
I told, I was at Chick-fil-A, and I left, and the lady little girl ran down for a block to give me my card because I left my card. Like, how you go backwards on that? I don't care how good churches or anybody else get other than my wife. That's why I'm going to get a chicken sandwich if I want to get
Exactly.
one, right?
Exactly.
Nuggets or whatever. So it's about the experience. And again, I just talked to one of our speakers. We finalized another speaker yesterday, and her name is Kathy Halter, and
Mhm.
she's going to be talking about customer service from the client side and the service provider
That's gonna
side.
be good.
So that's gonna be good. And I had a conversation with her, man, and it was so awesome. The things that she opened up from different sides. So again, we'll be having a talking about a Zoom on, but we want you guys to show up and invite somebody you know. If you know a child or high school kid that's going into technology or IT or graphics or anything like that, let us know. We got sponsors providing scholarships for those students and anybody that you know that needs this information. And it's just not for creative people; it's for business people in general for business marketing. Because Walt was saying a while ago that they we people are telling us to sell, and that comes over into every market. You can't just sell to people.
Right.
Now I'm gonna give you a test to show you how selling is. Go to somebody's inbox and start talking to him. Start talking to them, and you be like, "Hey man, have you checked out blah 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 blah?" You're gonna feel crazy and uncomfortable because you're gonna start to sound like a hacker. You're gonna
Right.
start to sound like somebody trying to give them multi-level marketing or something that you don't want to gravitate to, right? So in this day and time, more than any before, people don't like to be sold to. They can
Hate it.
feel selling
Hate it.
when it comes to. They even I got a call now, the scam call that calls me. I know what the scam is because even when I answer it, I hear the little music before they come home, and when I hear it, I hang it up
Right.
because I know what sales sounds like. And
Right.
we've been sold to so much through social media and all these other platforms that our soul feels what sell is about. And that carries on from marketplace over to church, over to anything. And so that's why I always got to salute out my pastor that we're working on cultivating the people that's inside. If you like it, good. If you want to join with us, cool. But we ain't recruiting. Good fraternities, and they don't recruit.
Ooh.
You go to them because you seen something out in the public. You like how they carry themselves, so you want to be a part of that, right? So flip it
That's
back inside, grow yourself. Our pastor was talking about becoming your better self. Grow yourself that somebody wants to follow you, that they want to
ooh.
follow the brand and see how you handle resolutions. They know you. They know that you can kill anybody on social media anytime you get ready. But when they see somebody offend you and you fall back, I wish I could do that. I wish I could handle that like that. So when they see that, now they're wanting to follow you. They're wanting to follow your brand. And so we got to keep important. We're gonna get off in just a second, but we got to keep important these things right here. Know what your mission is, know what your message is, and know what your narrative is, and know what your audience. Know what your audience is, because I'm sure Mike Todd had something that he wants to, he wanted to show we can do this just like the awards, da da da, this and that. But at the same time, there should have been somebody to say, hey, let's not put this in there. Let's not do this at that time. Somebody has to have some kind of moral barometer or something that's going to offend the body of Christ right now. We just seen that I forget awards it was, but they had demons and stuff dancing and all this stuff like that. When you do something that's the same color, stage, whatever, if you're giving people that same visual, guess what they're gonna relate to and take that back to? Because that's what they relate to. It's just like music. If we hear it, we can remember any point in time in our life, a first breakup, first cookout. You know what I'm saying? So know what your audience is and respect that audience. Like this
Yo,
is my audience right here.
yo,
But
what's up, EJ?
hello. Yes, you are. Say hello. Hello, I'm going. Okay, all right. But so we're in a time, man. I think we just have to and go to Creative Verse. If nothing else, go to creativeverse.org. Use code Dream, and if you got groups, DM me or Walt, and we're gonna take care of you.
Hey man, listen. Go to it's. I ain't gonna say dinosaur time, but yo, EJ is my resident Jurassic Park buddy because it's like the movie I watch at least once a week. But listen, li- listen. We
All
living in
right.
that time. It's a war
Don't
out
become
here.
a dinosaur. Don't
Listen,
become a dinosaur.
don't become a.
That's
Thank you.
right, baby.
That is the best way to end this live. Do not become a dinosaur. Do yourself a favor. Go to creativeverse.org. Do yourself a favor. Use that code DREAM. And like Elton said, we got scholarships out there. You know, if you're trying to get a group break, holla at us, man. Feel free. If you just want to sew, if you like, hey, I can't be there, but I know somebody who needs to be there. You buy a ticket for somebody else, sew into somebody else, you know what I'm saying, going. But at the end of the day, at the start of the day, if you're going to do anything, find yourself to Creativeverse, NC State, May 19th and 20th. We're looking forward to it. But, you know, as he just said, do not become a dinosaur, and don't miss this window, man, for entrepreneurs, for creatives. Yo, it's our time, and the window is only going to be open for so long because y'all see Will Smith and all the robots is trying to take your jobs. It's McDonald's popping up everywhere.
real.
That's like it's not a game. And you think for 1 second that your job is safe, you better ask us about like these chat GPT artificial, like
Mhm.
these jobs that can write code and do all second personal assistance. Anybody doing administrative jobs and all, man, y'all, let me tell you something. You bet. I know it's a gift in you. It's a dream. It's an idea. God will force what's in you out of you without even forcing you. You don't even understand.
Yeah.
Like it's got to come out of you one way or the other, man. So you don't get so comfortable. You be like, shoot, I'm safe. They'll never need AI lawyers. They'll never need AI paralegals, AI judges. You better ask somebody how this
You
thing
can,
is.
right. You can go. They said 80%. They said Chat GPT is beating 90% of the lawyers now, and you can take your own paperwork and study all night before you go, and you can
Literally.
win.
Literally, you go get a law degree in 24 hours of studying Chat GPT, where somebody done spent $500,000 to go to Harvard Law and they can't win your case, and you going in like, and we saying it to be funny, but like
Right.
real talk, like there is no industry that is safe, and that's not to make you afraid. That's just to reiterate you the importance of believing in yourself. If somebody else signs, and I used to be on this really hard and I got away from it, but I'm back on it. If somebody else signs your check, you're not safe.
Right.
I don't care how much money you make. I don't care if another person determines what goes in and out of your bank account. You're not safe. It was never intended to be like that. That is a curse because of our own disobedience. And I'm not saying nothing because I work a 9 to 5. So don't nobody at me talking about everybody's not meant to be an entrepreneur. That is actually a lie. That is a lie because there is something in you that somebody else will pay you for. You're just not willing to make the investment, come to Creativeverse and find out how we get that out of you.
And you better become a person that not only signs the back of the check, but a person that signs the front of the check. And you can
Listen.
do both. You can do both effectively, but there's more benefits and more freedom and more experiences that you can create for yourself if you're signing the front of the check.
Ooh, that's good. Sign the front and the back. Yeah, we got to post that. Be the person that writes the front and signs the back. Write yourself a check today, Roxanne. I'm serious. You're not safe. That's not to promote fear. That's to promote what's inside of you. It is a curse. It was never meant for you. Stop looking at everybody else. Stop being afraid. You're going to fail. Newsflash. Well, what if it don't work? It's not going to work 1,000 times. But that 1,001 time, it's going to work. I promise you.
We're gonna have another. We're gonna have another live, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell y'all about faith. I'm gonna tell y'all about faith, and hey, I gotta go now, but I'm
We
gonna tell
gotta
y'all
go.
we're gonna do
You
another live. We're
can't
gonna do y'all another live.
you can't spell faith without failure. I'm gonna just leave it at that.
There you go.
You cannot spell
All right.
faith without failure. Bye. We gotta go. Holler at y'all later. Y'all be easy. Creativeverse, May 19th, 20th, creativeverse.org. Use the code DREAM. Holla at your boy.